Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists, convention watchers all across the fruited plain. It's the award-winning, thrill-packed, ever-exciting, increasingly popular, growing by leaps and bounds Rush Limbaugh program here on the one and only Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Happy to have you with us. Here's the telephone number, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Okay, folks, what do you want? What do you want today? Do you want me to tell you about media bias, outrageousness, unfairness, racism, and bigotry? Do you want me to tell you how wonderful and fabulous and it was the best political wife speech ever and Romney was? Or do you want me to tell you how bad you thought it was? Do you want me to tell you what a barnstorming, knockdown, drag-out, over-the-top, fabulous speech Christie gave? Or do you want me to tell you what a disappointment it was? And do you want me to review all of the speakers with excerpts from each of their speeches with a top-down review? Do you want to talk about the overall tone of the convention? Do you want me to say, my gosh, what a bunch of wimps. Don't even have the guts to mention Obama's name. Christie didn't have the guts to mention his name. Do you want me to tell you how this bunch seems to be afraid to be critical of a party that's destroying the country? Or do you agree with the party? No, we don't need to mention that because everybody already knows it, and we're trying to attract swing voters and they don't want to hear that stuff. Or do you want to not even talk about the convention? No, it's not an option. That's not an option. We could. I don't care to talk about it. The only thing that's fascinating about football to me is the New York Jets haven't scored a touchdown in the preseason, and I don't know that that's for the first 3 games of the preseason. I don't know that that's ever happened, that a team has it. And the Jets say that's okay. Just wait till week 1. We're keeping it all in reserve. Don't want to peak too soon. Little League World Series. You know what? I didn't know. I got a note from a friend. I've got to mention this before I forget it. I got a note from a friend so upset over the chickification of the news. The chickification of the culture. Apparently in a Little League World Series, a pitcher hit a batter with a pitch and went to home plate and apologized. Now, when I was growing up, there was the Bob Gibson rule. When you hit them in the head, you throw inside again to show them you meant to hit them. That's the way I grew up, baseball. You hit somebody and then you throw inside again to let them know it was on purpose. That's what the umpires say. Then I was told, this I don't believe. This I can't. If this is true, folks, it's over. It doesn't matter what's happening at the convention. Little League World Series. Guy hits a home run. The pitcher who threw the home run waits at home plate to congratulate the kid who hit the home run. That's what I was told. That's what I was told. Yes, I am trying to avoid discussing the convention. New Orleans is still there. Yeah, New Orleans is still there. Look, it's not an official hurricane until Shep Smith starts crying, and Shep Smith hasn't started crying yet. So it's not really a bad hurricane. It's still there. New Orleans is still there. Mississippi's still there. Mobile's still in Alabama. Yeah, it's still there. Storm's still there. Storm kind of paused or it's stalled. It's moving very slow. It is going to dump a lot of rain there. But it's a Cat 1, and Katrina was all the way at Cat 5, revised to a Cat 5, kind of like the unemployment numbers are revised. They revised Katrina after the fact. But you know what? It hit Cat 5 there for a couple of minutes. Here are the media numbers. Last night, NBC had 5.3 million people watching the convention, which, if you haven't heard, NBC and MSNBC did not televise one ethnic minority speech. They didn't. NBC, particularly MSNBC, whenever Artur Davis or Mia Love, anybody who wasn't white was making a speech, it wasn't covered on NBC or MSNBC. Then CBS had 3.3 million viewers. ABC had 2.3 million. The cable numbers will come in this afternoon about 4 o'clock. And the overall, I think the total viewership will be about 20 million when it's all said and done, when it's calculated. So, yeah, here's some. Oh, and we're working on getting the audio of this during live coverage of the convention in Tampa. An ABC News employee provided great example of the anti-Republican bias that Romney faces in a video broadcast Monday night by ABC over the internet. An ABC News employee can be heard claiming that Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney and his wife are unconcerned about the fate of residents of New Orleans. The ABC News employee said on a hot mic that he didn't know was hot. They aren't concerned at all. They're happy to have a party when black people drown. An ABC reporter said this, overheard, internet. We are putting the audio together even now. No, I know NBC did cover Nikki Haley, but they didn't know that she's a minority. They just thought she had a good tan. They didn't know that she has Indian roots. So we got one by them. We snuck one by them. High cheekbones just like Elizabeth Warren, but they didn't catch that. They didn't catch it. They didn't think that. They just thought, brunette, dark skin. This is the way they look at people. Here are the headlines on Drudge that report this. Oh, and Mia Love, by the way, great speech early on. Black Utah wasn't covered. Wikipedia. Wikipedia, you go in and anybody can change whatever anybody's entry on Wikipedia is. And some hackers went into Wikipedia and were calling her dirty, worthless whore, house N-word, because she dared show up at the Republican convention. MSNBC cuts speeches made by minorities from the coverage of the convention. NBC News posts clips of white speakers only. The LA Times headline, RNC puts a brown face on a white party. And F. Chuck Todd, NBC, said the Republicans are putting minorities in the front row of their convention. They look like they're diverse. So this is a sample of some of the media coverage that happened and the way it is being covered. And folks, there's nothing you can do about it. This is not going to change. It's getting worse. They're all part of the agenda. They are all collaborators with Obama. They're all collaborators with the Democrat Party. And it's the age-old question, what do you do about it? And really the question is, what can you do about it? And there's nothing. I mean, interesting, too, for those of you, and I know you're out there, I'll tell you, I've heard every opinion. I've heard Romney's wife was horrible and the best thing ever. I've heard the same about Christie. I've heard every pro and con you can imagine about this thing. And I've got sound bites of Republican consultants talking. It's great that they didn't mention Obama's name. It's wonderful. Yeah, because we got to go get the swing voters. And yeah, Obama knows. Everybody knows how bad Obama is. We didn't need to waste time talking about Obama. Ed Rollins and Karl Rove, particularly. There's a piece that's interesting here that I had it yesterday stack and didn't get to it. but I held it over. It's, whose piece is this? Daniel Foster. Daniel Foster. Let me just read excerpts of this to you. Yesterday afternoon, on the 7th floor of a nondescript glass office tower on the fringes of downtown Tampa, this would have been Sunday afternoon, I sat in a dark room behind a two-way mirror and watched Frank Luntz put a focus group of 23 swing voters through the paces. And here's what I learned. Americans are worried about a lot of things. It was a 2.5-hour session, but I'll give you a for instance. Americans are really worried about education, about cost and competition from abroad, about kids who mortgage their futures by foregoing college to work, about kids who are too lazy to work and hide away in college. They think we need better teachers. They think we need better parents. They think we need to hold educators more accountable. They think we need to leave educators be. They think critical and creative thinking skills are the most important. They think we should stick to the 3 R's. We should learn from Asia. We should reject Asia. There was agreement, at least, that we should do more of the things that work and less of the things that don't work. And that above all, these swing voters said things should be better. Everybody needs to do everything to make everything better. And the children, that was all these children, always the children are the number one concern. And so it went. And Luntz covered all the big issues. From the economy. Some are afraid it's getting worse, but they've got hope. Others are optimistic about growth, but they have their doubts. To increased political polarization. The problem you see is that Republicans pick conservatives in their primaries and Democrats pick liberals in theirs, and that's the problem. This is all what the swing voters were saying. Now, as you listen to this, keep in mind that's who everybody's gunning for, is these people. Let me just cut to the chase. Daniel Foster at National Review said he finished watching. They said, my God, these people are schizos. They're all over the place. They don't know what they think. They don't know why they think what they think. You can't pin them down on what they think. They think both sides of everything. They want everybody to think that they're fair. They want everybody to think that they're not this and not that, and that they're wonderful people. The sum total revealed a bizarre truth about swing voters. It's not that they're divided on any given issue, with half taking one side and half taking the other. Rather, everybody seemed to agree with everybody else about everything, and they disagreed with everybody else about everything. Transitory coalitions formed and dissolved in what seemed like a matter of milliseconds, like exotic particles in a super collider. 1 minute, Latino nose spectacles was in complete agreement with senior in blazer. The next, they were at each other's throats. Young yellow dress had a team with hair gel to step in as the voice of reason. Working majority seemingly assented to some premise, only to split 1,000 ways from the previously stated premise. Everybody hates Congress, but most of these people either voted for their current congressman or can't name them. Everybody blames both parties for gridlock, but everybody also wants politicians brave enough to stand for their principles. Most call themselves moderates. One described himself as a liberal, and he voted for McCain. He plans to vote for Romney. There were even those among them who liked Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan equally. Such people aren't so much swing voters as they are schizophrenic. The bad news is that these people are going to determine the election. The good news is that the vast majority of them are for Romney. That's what came out of all of this. Moderate swing voters. Why are they moderate? You know what? I have a theory about this. As you listen to me read to you Daniel Foster's description of the swing voter in a Frank Luntz focus group. I don't think they're schizophrenic. Well, they may be schizophrenic. I think they've been driven to it. I think these people, these poor people, these are your neighbors, our neighbors. These people have been driven to near insanity because they instinctively know what's right, and yet they see on the media every day that they're wrong. They know what's right, and they're made fun of. I think they instinctively know what's right and wrong, good and sensible, but they're told every day by the media and the pop culture that they're not right, that they're wrong. So it makes them nuts. They have been made schizophrenic. They're nuts out there. They also know that they're the focal point of every campaign. Swing voters, undecideds. And when it comes time for them to get in a group and tell everybody what they think, they make sure that they tell you they agree with both sides of everything. These people, in their own minds, are beaten up every day. I think they've got the right instincts. I think they probably know what's right and wrong, good and bad, but they're weak. They succumb to the daily barrage that they're subjected to, that they're kooks, freaks, and oddballs. And they don't want people to think that. So when they're put together in a focus group, they make sure that whoever's running that focus group knows that they're for this and against it, for it and against it. They see both sides, in other words. I can see what you feel. I can see how you feel, but I don't necessarily feel that way right now, but I did yesterday. Anything to avoid criticism. Truly schizophrenic. And they're nuts. And that's how we get moderates. That's how we get people afraid to stand for things because they're routinely beaten up. Look at what happens to conservatives in the media who stand up for it. Don't care who you are, you get destroyed. You get creamed if you go public with it. Well, these people don't want that. Anyway, it turns out they are for Mitt Romney. This group of 23 that Luntz put together, supposedly representative nationwide sample, is for Mitt Romney.